Have you ever noticed that no matter how hard we try to please everyone, we're the ones who end up suffering the most? The truth, and it might sting a little, is that living for others will never lead to a free and fulfilling life. It might sound counterintuitive, but life only starts to smile at you when you stop trying to be liked by everyone. And no, this isn't about becoming cold or selfish. It's about finally understanding that emotional self-sufficiency, personal boundaries, and self-care aren't luxuries. They're survival. Maybe you were taught that saying no is rude, or that seeking your own peace means you're giving up on others. That's a lie. A fulfilling life begins when you realize that perfectionism, emotional dependency, and lack of reciprocity are invisible chains, keeping you from growing. And the best part, there's a simple, practical way to change this, and it starts now with the timeless principles of Stoicism. In just a few steps, you'll begin a transformation that will echo through every area of your life. If you've ever felt tired of chasing approval, frustrated from expecting too much from others, or lost trying to fit in where you never belonged, then you're exactly where you need to be. Get ready to learn how to focus on your own garden, protect your energy, build solid relationships, and turn your solitude into your greatest source of strength, all while planting the seeds of a life that, finally, will truly be your own. And don't think it'll take years to feel this shift. It won't. Some simple changes you make today will already start to radically reshape your reality. But be warned, only keep going if you're ready to let go of everything that keeps you trapped. Because the freedom you've been searching for starts right now, inside of you. Sometimes life feels like an endless competition, doesn't it? Looking at your neighbor's garden and thinking their grass is greener becomes almost automatic. But Stoic wisdom teaches that true freedom lies in taking care of what's within our reach, our own garden. Emotional self-sufficiency is born when we stop chasing external validation and start watering our inner soil with genuine self-care day after day. You know that satisfying feeling of making your bed in the morning? Small actions like that build not only discipline, but a powerful sense of personal accomplishment. It's like trying to control the weather, completely pointless. Life is full of storms and cloudy days that have nothing to do with us. What we can do is build shelter within ourselves, strengthened by self-sufficiency and the law of attraction. Because thoughts nourished with conscious attention attract calmer behaviors and realities. A good place to start? Set a simple daily self-care ritual. A light walk outdoors, 10 minutes of conscious breathing, or even a gratitude list before bed. It doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the simpler, the better. Those who focus on their own garden understand the importance of well-defined personal boundaries. It's impossible to grow in soil where anyone can step without asking. Protecting your roots isn't selfish, it's practical wisdom. Emotional dependency arises precisely when we let others control our inner seasons. Simple behaviors like saying, "I can't today" without guilt, strengthen self-care and feed our autonomy with firmness, yet with kindness. Because respecting your own timing is the same as respecting your own soul. Now, none of this means cutting yourself off from the world, all right? Stoicism values balance. Taking care of your own garden also means being mindful of what you're planting in your thoughts, your relationships, and even your leisure time. Reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, for example, is like fertilizing your mind with practical wisdom to face both good and tough days. And believe it or not, rich inner soil attracts better fruits, like healthier friendships and lighter environments. True reciprocity begins with internal reciprocity. It's fascinating how, as we cultivate self-sufficiency and daily self-care, a new strength begins to emerge, assertive communication. We start to know what we want to say, how we feel, and what we need in order to bloom, without having to shout to be heard. Everything flows more smoothly. And speaking of flow, since we're tending our garden, how about learning to prune perfectionism before it chokes our flowers? That relentless urge to do everything flawlessly isn't a sign of strength. It's fear dressed as high standards. Stoicism teaches that true greatness lies in accepting our humanity. Flaws, stumbles, and fresh starts are all part of the journey. When someone embraces emotional self-sufficiency, they realize they don't need applause to keep going. They know the value lies in sincere effort, not in a perfect performance that never arrives. How many times have you held back from starting something amazing because you feared not being good enough? Maybe that pottery class, maybe a book you've been wanting to write, maybe that trip you've dreamed of for years. Perfectionism paralyzes. It creates an army of what-ifs that never materialize. A true Stoic applies the law of attraction here. They nurture thoughts of courage, even if imperfect, and take action despite fear. A great exercise is to list 3 things each week that you started without worrying about being perfect. Small victories lead to big changes. Accepting your own limitations is like seeing your soul with more kindness. Self-care includes this compassionate gaze, understanding that not every day will be brilliant, and that's okay. Cloudy days also nourish the earth. Those who practice assertive self-communication learn to say, "Today didn't go as planned, but I'll try again tomorrow." This mindset distances you from emotional dependency on external approval and strengthens your spirit with a kind of self-sufficiency that doesn't break under criticism or setbacks. Perfectionism is often disguised as high standards, but deep down, it hides a difficulty in setting healthy personal boundaries. If everything has to be perfect, then everything demands your attention, your time, your energy. And guess what? You end up drained. Constructive solitude means taking a moment to look inward and realizing that your peace is more important than any endless performance. Want a simple example? Instead of planning the perfect birthday party to please everyone, how about doing something small that actually brings you joy? And just like that, little, by letting go of this cruel need for perfection, we begin to open ourselves to real progress. Progress that isn't measured in medals, but in peace of mind. And since we're talking about leaving behind what blocks our growth, how about discovering now how to make space for true connections and expand your social circle with authenticity? You know that feeling of wanting to fit in, but it seems like everyone already has their own group? Relax, it happens to everyone. Stoicism reminds us that the foundation for any healthy relationship is emotional self-sufficiency. That means approaching others not out of neediness, but with a genuine desire to build something light, free from emotional dependence. And for that, the secret is to listen more than you speak, to truly listen with an open mind and a calm heart. Because in the end, those who plant presence harvest connection. Expanding your social circle doesn't mean jumping into the first group that comes along. It means choosing carefully, like someone selecting what to plant in their own garden. That's where self-care comes in, preferring people who bring peace, not drama. You could start by spending time in places that align with who you are or who you want to become. Book clubs, hiking trails, art workshops. When you expose yourself to environments that reflect your values, the law of attraction works in your favor, drawing in more meaningful encounters. Rejection. Oh, it'll happen, and that's okay. A Stoic understands that not everyone will like them, and that doesn't define their worth. Emotional self-sufficiency acts as a gentle shield. You feel the discomfort, take a deep breath, and keep moving forward. No drama. A helpful exercise is to challenge yourself to strike up a conversation with someone new once a week without clinging to the outcome. It's a practical way to strengthen both your assertive communication and your inner peace. 2 treasures that are truly priceless. Another crucial point is respecting your own personal boundaries in social interactions. Just because you want to make new friends doesn't mean you have to say yes to everything or tolerate behaviors that go against your values. Constructive solitude teaches us that being alone by choice is far more dignified than being poorly accompanied out of fear. A good reminder, genuine connections are born when you allow yourself to be exactly who you are. No masks, no perfectionism, no forcing anything. And as new friendships form, slowly, lightly, and truthfully, something even more powerful begins to happen. Mindful leisure becomes an incredible tool to nurture those relationships and also to nourish your own soul. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Many people see leisure as just a way to kill time. But Stoicism offers a different perspective, conscious leisure. Instead of simply filling empty moments, how about using that time to cultivate emotional self-sufficiency and strengthen self-care? You know that watercolor class you've always wanted to take? Or that guilt-free afternoon spent reading a great book like Letters from a Stoic by Seneca? These moments aren't luxuries, they're nourishment for the soul and, let's be honest, a smart strategy for keeping a sane mind in a chaotic world. Choosing wisely how to spend your free time is a practical way to apply the law of attraction. When you invest in activities that uplift you, you naturally attract more experiences that reinforce your best self. Want a practical example? Instead of spending the whole Saturday binge-watching random series, try dedicating a few hours to learning something new, like healthy cooking or conscious breathing techniques. It's not just an act of self-care, it can also expand your social circle in a light and natural way. Now, conscious leisure also has everything to do with personal boundaries. Not every invitation to go out or every packed weekend schedule is actually good for you. The key is to ask yourself, does this nourish my mind and heart? If the answer is a sincere yes, go for it. If not, allow yourself to say no, without guilt, without fear of missing out. Constructive solitude, in fact, teaches us that time spent alone, intentionally and lovingly chosen, is also a precious and deeply transformative kind of leisure. What's even more interesting is that conscious leisure strengthens our assertive communication. When we choose activities that fulfill us, we gain more clarity about our tastes, interests, and boundaries. It becomes much easier to express that to the world and attract people who vibe with us. A thought-provoking film, an outdoor yoga class, a creative writing workshop, all of these are practical ways to use leisure to your advantage and build a richer, more meaningful life. As conscious leisure becomes part of your routine, you'll notice your own company becomes more and more enjoyable. And that, my friend, is one of the greatest treasures we can have, the genuine pleasure of enjoying our own presence. But let's dive deeper into that now. A lot of people run from their own company like someone avoiding a mirror that shows too much. But Stoicism teaches that to live fully, we have to face that mirror and make peace with what we see. Constructive solitude isn't about being cut off from the world, it's about being so at ease with yourself that the presence of others becomes a choice, not a necessity. That's the foundation of emotional self-sufficiency. A great way to begin. Set aside a morning for yourself. No phone, no rush. Just you, your coffee, and your thoughts. Enjoying your own company is one of the most powerful acts of self-care. Because when you give yourself time and space to feel, think, and simply be, you're telling your own heart, I am enough. And believe me, that kind of emotional independence is rare, but incredibly powerful. A simple example. Make a list of activities you'd like to do alone. Visit a museum, go hiking, have lunch at a new restaurant, and do one each week. You'll be amazed at how much this nourishes your self-esteem. It's fascinating how, in constructive solitude, we begin to see more clearly where we need to set personal boundaries. Without the constant noise of others' expectations, we can finally hear our own needs. And this strengthens assertive communication, both internal and external. You stop accepting emotional crumbs, stop submitting to toxic relationships, and start demanding what you truly deserve: reciprocity, respect, and lightness. All of this without needing to raise your voice or deliver grand speeches. Another powerful aspect of practicing conscious solitude is how it naturally attracts more good things into your life. A real-world example of the law of attraction. When you feel whole and at peace, you radiate that energy, and without sounding too mystical, the universe responds. Meaningful conversations arise, opportunities appear, and best of all, you have the emotional wisdom to choose them calmly, without desperation or emotional dependence. After all, you already have everything you need within you. And as this relationship with yourself becomes more solid, a new kind of strength emerges. The ability to protect your time and energy without guilt. That's when we learn that saying no is actually saying yes to our own life. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about now. If there's one thing people urgently need to learn, it's the power of a well-placed no. In Stoicism, saying no isn't being rude. It's being loyal to yourself. And believe me, protecting your emotional self-sufficiency requires that kind of courage. Because deep down, every time you say yes when you want to say no, you're abandoning your own garden to water someone else's. A helpful exercise? Before responding to any invitation, take a deep breath and ask, does this respect my self-care and personal boundaries? Assertive communication is born from this place of awareness and respect. Those who practice it can take a stand with firmness and kindness, without guilt or excessive explanations. An example? Instead of making up elaborate excuses, simply say, thank you for the invitation, but I won't be able to make it today. Sounds simple, and it is. The hard part is overcoming the old emotional dependency that makes us want to please everyone. But let's be real, if you bend over backward for everyone else, you'll eventually break your own emotional backbone. Learning to say no also teaches that self-care is not selfish, it's essential. Without clear personal boundaries, you become a prisoner of others' expectations. The law of attraction plays a role here too. The more clearly you express yourself, the more respect and better opportunities you attract. Want a real example? Look at successful leaders and professionals. They're masters at protecting their time, carefully choosing meetings, commitments, and even friendships. You can and should do the same. Of course, at first, guilt will try to sneak in. After all, we've been trained to please, to give in, to sacrifice. But that's where constructive solitude comes in, being comfortable with disappointing someone when needed, because you know that disappointing yourself is far worse. A simple, practical exercise? Every time you feel guilty after saying no, write down the reason for your refusal in a notebook. Over time, you'll realize that most of those no's were actually huge yeses to your inner peace. And as you master the art of respecting yourself without guilt, you begin to realize that investing in yourself is no longer a luxury. It becomes a non-negotiable priority. And that's exactly the powerful transformation we're going to talk about in the next step. Some people still think that investing in yourself is a whim, a treat for those who have time to spare. But the truth, taught for centuries by Stoicism, is that nurturing your own growth is as essential as breathing. Those who practice conscious self-care know learning, evolving, and building inner strength isn't vanity. It's emotional self-sufficiency in action. A great first step? Choose a book that expands your mind, like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and dedicate 20 minutes a day to reading. It may seem small, but over time, it changes everything. When you invest in yourself, the law of attraction also starts working in your favor. The more knowledge you gain, the more opportunities arise. It's not magic, it's mindset. A practical example, Learning about assertive communication can not only improve your relationships but also open professional doors. Public speaking, persuasive writing, time management courses, all of these strengthen your internal toolkit. You become less emotionally dependent on others and more confident in your own choices and path. The most beautiful part of investing in yourself is realizing that little by little, constructive solitude stops feeling uncomfortable and starts becoming freedom. Being alone in a cafe, studying, challenging yourself with a new skill, or reflecting on your own journey becomes a source of pride, not shame. And each small victory strengthens your personal boundaries. You gain a clearer sense of what you want, what you deserve, and what you'll never accept again. That's the kind of emotional armor money can't buy. It's also important to remember that this investment doesn't have to be expensive. There are incredible YouTube channels on Stoicism, free online courses, books in public libraries, and online book clubs. What matters is intention and consistency. A person committed to their own development doesn't need to chase success. They start to attract it naturally. And this applies to every area of life: friendships, career, love, spirituality. Where there's inner growth, there's outer expansion. And as you begin to truly value yourself, you realize you need to be even more selective about who and what you allow into your life. That's when a fundamental practice comes in to protect the peace you've built, setting non-negotiable boundaries in relationships. One thing Stoicism teaches very clearly is this: your peace is worth more than any relationship. You can't build emotional self-sufficiency if you keep sacrificing your principles just to please others or maintain weak connections. Setting non-negotiable boundaries is like fencing your garden, not to keep flowers out, but to keep pests away. A powerful exercise: make a list of your personal red flags, behaviors you consider unacceptable, and use that list as a compass in your relationships. Believe me, it saves your energy and protects your self-care. It's all too easy to get lost in emotional ties when you lack clarity about your personal boundaries. Sometimes, out of emotional dependency, we close our eyes to red flags flashing right in front of us. The ideal is to act like a wise Stoic. Observe with serenity without justifying the unjustifiable. Want an example? If someone repeatedly disrespects your time, mocks your dreams, or dismisses your feelings, that's not just in your head, it's real disrespect. And that's exactly what assertive communication is for: to name those discomforts before they turn into resentment. Protecting your boundaries doesn't mean being harsh or closed off to the world. On the contrary, it means making room for real relationships based on reciprocity and mutual respect. A helpful practice is to review your current connections and ask yourself, does this relationship bring me closer to the person I want to become? If the answer stings, it's time to reassess. In such cases, constructive solitude isn't punishment, it's salvation. It gives you the strength to stop settling for emotional crumbs and to wait for connections that truly nourish you. Another crucial point: your red flags are yours. It doesn't matter if everyone else sees a behavior as normal. If it hurts you, it's valid to set a boundary. This is where the law of attraction becomes powerful. When you stand firm in your truth, you start to repel people who don't respect your values and attract those who resonate with your frequency. It's like tuning a radio. Those on the right wavelength will naturally connect. And when you begin to demand that level of respect in your relationships, a new foundation becomes even more essential: true reciprocity. Because if you're going to open the door, it better be for someone who knows how to enter with kindness. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. One thing Stoicism teaches, often the hard way, is that unbalanced relationships drain your vital energy. There's no point in building emotional self-sufficiency if you're still carrying people on your back who only know how to take. Reciprocity is the key word. It's not about doing things just to get something in return. It's about recognizing whether there's real flow. I give, you give, we both grow. A practical exercise? Write down honestly. Who in your life today supports you with the same enthusiasm you offer them, and who only takes and never shows up for you? When you understand the value of reciprocity, self-care gains an extra layer of protection. It's not selfish to expect balance, it's self-respect. If you're watering someone's garden and never even receive a drop in return, it's a sign that soil isn't fertile for you. That's where assertive communication comes in, being clear about what you need without fear of seeming too demanding. And if the response is silence or disregard, it might be time to apply that classic Stoic teaching, accept what you cannot change and move on. Emotional dependency is one of the biggest enemies of reciprocity. When we're needy, we settle for less than we deserve, mistake crumbs for banquets, and end up stuck in relationships that weaken us. Constructive solitude is the antidote. When you are enough for yourself, you don't have to settle for less than you're worth. A practical example: if you realize you're always the one reaching out, suggesting plans, caring, it's time to rebalance before emotional exhaustion takes hold for good. Reciprocity also strengthens your personal boundaries because you begin to truly value your time and energy. And believe it, the law of attraction works with precision in this area. When you carry yourself as someone who knows what they deserve, you naturally repel empty relationships and attract deeper, healthier connections. Like that friend who messages just to see how you're doing with no strings attached, or the colleague who recommends you for a job without expecting anything in return. These kinds of relationships become fertilizer for your personal growth, and since every solid relationship needs a strong foundation, there's one ingredient that can't be missing: knowing how to express yourself with clarity and respect. After all, you can't expect reciprocity if you don't communicate what you need, right? So now, let's talk about how to master the art of assertive communication. Some people think assertive communication is about being loud or authoritarian, but in truth, it's a subtle art, and a crucial one for anyone practicing Stoicism and aiming for true emotional self-sufficiency. Being assertive means expressing what you feel and need in a clear, firm, and respectful way, without passive aggression or steamrolling anyone. A great practical tool: use this simple formula. When this happens, I feel emotion, and I'd like clear request. It works with friends, family, colleagues, and most importantly, it reinforces your self-care. Speaking clearly prevents emotions from piling up like emotional trash, fermenting into silent resentment. Assertive communication is like regular soul cleaning. It clears the clutter, organizes your space, and makes room for new growth. And here's where constructive solitude helps again. Because when you're comfortable being alone, you're not afraid of losing people. You have the courage to demand respect. That alone weeds out many toxic relationships and leaves no room for emotional dependency to take root. A common mistake many people make is assuming others should know how we feel or what we expect. That leads to frustration, conflict, and a painful sense of invisibility. Want to avoid that? Practice assertive communication, even in the small stuff. Instead of staying silently upset because your friend was late, say, "When you're late, I feel unimportant. I'd appreciate it if you let me know next time." Clear, firm, respectful. This kind of honesty protects your boundaries and strengthens real connections. And since life is a two-way street, good communication also means knowing how to listen. The balance between speaking and truly hearing is what turns simple exchanges into deep, meaningful relationships. And of course, it reinforces reciprocity. When you listen attentively, without already crafting your reply in your head, you show respect, presence, and care. These are rare and precious qualities nowadays. And yes, The law of attraction is at work here too. Those who communicate with grace attract elevated relationships. As assertive communication becomes a natural part of your life, you'll notice a quiet but powerful transformation. Life feels lighter, relationships flow more smoothly, and your inner garden blooms like never before. And believe it, this is only the beginning of a life that's free, fulfilling, and genuinely happy. Now tell me, after everything you've learned today, are you still going to leave your garden at the mercy of the wind, or are you finally ready to take the reins of your own life? How many more times will you accept one-sided relationships, chase impossible perfection, or neglect your self-care, thinking things will get better later? The time to change is now, and you already hold in your hands the kind of knowledge most people never have the courage to apply. So tell me, which of these 10 steps do you feel called to put into practice first? Focusing on your own garden, setting personal boundaries, embracing constructive solitude. Drop it in the comments. I'd love to know what resonated most deeply with you. After all, sharing your journey is the first step towards solidifying this new chapter. And hey, if this content made sense to you, just imagine what's still to come. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because here we're not just talking about pretty theories. We're building step by step a life that's free, fulfilling, and aligned with who we truly are. Ready to walk this path together? Let's go.